morning. We're here with Paul Marshall from the Craft Agent. How you doing, Paul?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, really well, thank you. Thanks very much for joining us.
You're good.
So, yeah, just to get straight into the questions then, and if you'd like to give us a bit of introduction about who you are, what you do, and how long you've been doing it for, please.
Okay, well, after a considerable amount of years in the craft beer industry, working for various breweries, both as a buyer and a seller, I ended up starting my own business, concentrating on, originally I was looking, kind of doing a domestic sales consultancy type thing to try and help breweries to increase their sales without having to employ an expensive sales manager, for example, so they could take me on a retainer basis, and I could bring along my contacts. But after a year or so, I decided to stick to what I really enjoy, and that's export. So what I really do now is I help breweries to connect to my network of importers and get their beer out. And well, I say breweries, it's expanded since then. But it was originally craft beer, but now it's craft beer, cider, cocktails, wine, beverages, basically.
Excellent.
And so I help breweries to connect and try and expedite the process of finding importers, because it's not an easy thing to do, especially when you're going in blind and it takes a lot of time, things like that. So I try and offer a service to various beverage producers, where I introduce them, but I introduce them to the importers that I know are interested in their products and the markets that I know that their product is suitable for. So I don't just go in and just throw them at everybody. I have targeted, and I've been doing this now for about, say, just over 2 years now. I've been on my own, and it's going really well, and I really like it.
Fantastic. One of my favorite subjects, beer. So yeah, good on you. Importing, exporting stuff. That's brilliant. So in terms of, you say a couple of years or so now doing that, what, that industry had a bit of an impact happened to it when all the pubs and everything were closing. How did that affect you through the pandemic?
Oh, it was awful. Not just for me, but for the clients that I have. I mean, you can't sell products to a market that is closed down. So I think the main issue throughout all of it was uncertainty, because it was always rumors that apparently there's another wave coming, so we might be shutting down again, so we can't commit to this order. So I know a few of my clients, I had a lot of orders in the bag for them, and they all got cancelled, and so it was horrible. And that therefore meant obviously that businesses didn't want to hire somebody who couldn't really bring them results at that point. So, I did what many people did. Well, things were a bit tough. I went out and I started doing a bit of delivery driving, and things like that, just to tide me over. And also it was nice because I felt like I was actually giving something back, and I was actually meeting people and talking to people in a period where nobody was seeing anybody. So I did that for about 3 months while things were at their kind of peak, so to speak. And it's affected it. It affected it in a big way. But thankfully, since then, it feels like we've come out of it quite a bit, and export is kind of moving again the way it used to. I mean, with other challenges like Brexit and things like that, but it's definitely showing signs of improvement now, and many of the clients that come on board are seeing some decent results. So
good stuff. So did you do anything in that period during the pandemic where you had to change things at all? Was there anything where you had a shift in, I suppose, either direction or how you did things because of the pandemic that have maybe lasted? Anything like that?
Well, all we could really do was plan ahead. And so for the clients that that kept and stuck by me throughout that process, there were a few kind of things. So for example, one of the breweries I work with, Seven Brothers, we'd been working to get their beer across to America, and we were already really far along with this deal. But in a weird way, thankfully, because of the amount of red tape involved with getting products to America, and the processes we have to go through with labeling and getting approval from the government and states and things like that. Thankfully, I could get on with a lot of that stuff in the background and get that all ready for when my importer over there was ready to press go again. So, you know, I was able to keep things going and planning ahead, but I'm not going to lie, it was obviously very challenging. And like I say, I probably wouldn't have gone off and done a bit of delivery driving if things weren't bad. But I'm glad I did. Like I say, you know, it was actually a change of scenery, and I enjoyed it a lot.
Stuff. Good on you for going out there and adapting in the time that you had to do that.
Absolutely,
it's a good share. So, in terms of what the future looks like from this point of view, you mentioned things are kind of opening up more. What do you see as the sort of main challenges with regards to where things are going now? If not that you have a crystal ball, because nobody does, and there's lots of things on the horizon, but if there's any kind of viewpoint for the future and challenges that you see.
Well, I think it's safe to say that everybody is facing some significant challenges at the moment. I mean, we've had the most dreadful government for the last God knows how long, and I don't see that improving anytime soon. And with regards to the impact that, say, something like Brexit has had on an export business, it's absolutely ridiculous. And so, you know, cost of transport has gone up, cost of even just the basic things that you actually have to have in place in order to export your goods in the first place is all gone kind of crazy. So, you know, it used to be easy to just send a pallet across to the Netherlands, and now, you know, they import from us. It's like they're importing from Singapore. So, you know, so in terms of challenges, I'm the biggest challenge for me is actually getting the beer or the beverage of any kind out of the country and into another one without the kind of problems that we're having now. So, I mean, I don't see that improving anywhere in the near future, but as long as, you know, the key is to stay as clued up about it as you can and try it and be able to answer as many questions that the client might have. And so that's where I find myself at the moment. And in terms of challenges, like you say, I feel like there's only going to be more and more and more questions to answer as things go forward. I can't see it getting any easier, put it that way. But that said, you know, business is still good. You know, the beverages are still moving. And so, you know, we just have to take the challenges and face them as they come.
Can you position yourself then as like a problem solver in that respect? That's where you add value for your clients.
Yeah, definitely, because that's the thing. You know, what I do isn't just about sales, and I can't promise sales. I can tell you that I know people will be interested, and I will definitely put your beer or your wine or your cider in front of these people. But it's always up to them at the end of the day. But aside from all of that, the whole point is, if you've never exported before, then I can answer your questions. I can help you become export ready. I can make sure your price structure is correct and in line with what the current market values and trends are. And you know, in certain places like Finland, for example, you know, it's about knowing the full. It's quite a difficult process to get your beer or your product in there, because there's all manner of things that you're required to do by the government in order to do that. And so, you know, it's up to me to be able to know all of that stuff so that you don't have any unnecessary kind of surprises and things like that. So so it's kind of business development as well as sales, and it's also hopefully leaving you with a whole load of contacts that you never had before. So
good stuff. So just kind of moving into your period of working for yourself, running your own business, what would you see as the main sort of thing that you've learned, or if you can pick one biggest learning you've had?
It is a difficult question, that, because you learn so much. And I think, you know, the hardest thing is in export is that it takes time sometimes. You know, I always have to say to a client, that it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, I'm not saying it hasn't, because it does sometimes, but it's very rare, and it can take a period of, I usually say something like 3 to 6 months, maybe sometimes, to even see something go across the line.
Yeah.
And so in terms of learnings, you know, I suppose it's making sure that you convey that message and manage expectations of the client from the earliest possible moment, because what I don't want is for somebody to get 3 months in and start getting really worried that nothing's happening yet, because as one of my clients in particular has found out, they stuck with me for an extra couple of months after that initial period, and then 3 territories came along at once.
Yeah.
And that's just how it happens sometimes, and that can be really frustrating for a client to have to sit there and go, God, is Paul actually doing anything here?
Yeah, where are the results?
And the thing, exactly, and this is the thing, you know, you have to, if I tell you that, just stick with me, I mean it, I'm very honest. And so I think, like I say, the key I've found is always manage expectations and don't overpromise, because if you overpromise, you'll not deliver. So
well, thank you for that. Good share. And if we were to ask you to give some advice to, I don't know, like an 18-year-old entrepreneur just starting out, what would be the best piece of advice you could give them?
Why work for anybody when you can work for yourself?
Good stuff. I like that.
And that was actually, to be fair, that's not mine. I lifted that. I used to work for Beerhawk. I was the buyer for Beerhawk for a couple of years, and I remember one of the other members of staff was having a little leaving do, and the owner of Beerhawk used that as an example. He said, "I always say, why work for somebody else when you can work for yourself?" And I always and I have to say that stuck with me for a year or so after that, and then I ended up working for myself. So it must have had some impact on me, and I was about 38 at the time. So if I was 18, I should have listened. I would have listened then.
So that kind of leads into the next question nicely. Maybe that was a piece of inspiring conversation that you had or listened to. Is there anything else that you currently use for inspiration, so whether it's podcasts or friends, family, clients, or anything that you kind of find inspiring in today's world?
It's just relationships. Everything about my business and my attitude towards it is relationships. I like to make sure that first and foremost the relationship is there. So I like listening to my importers. I like speaking to them. I like hearing what's going on in their country, what's happening in their market. And I think that if I wasn't inspired by some of the words of advice that they gave me, I probably wouldn't know how to target the market so well. So I think that is all down to the sucking in of the knowledge from all these other people that I know. And so I'd say relationships and speaking to people is where I get my most kind of inspiration from. Cool.
Thank you for that. And lastly, in terms of any latest news around your business, anything you'd like to share, it might just even be contact details if anyone wanted to get in touch with you.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, my business has expanded since I first started. Like I said, I was originally called the Craft Agent. Well, I still am called the Craft Agent, but my original tagline was beer is our business. But actually, that's not entirely true anymore, because now I'm working with beer, I'm working with cider, wine, a ready-to-drink cocktail company, potentially about to start working with an excellent soft drink company as well. So actually, whatever your beverage, if you're thinking about going into export, I'm always there for a chat, and you can reach me at paul@thecraftagent.com.
Brilliant. Well, that's good. Thank you very much for speaking to us, Paul. It's been a pleasure, and I hope it all goes from strength to strength for you.
Thank you very much indeed.